afternoon, or evening, wherever you are around the world. I am Dr. Joanne Hermilia de Austria, and I will be one of your moderators for tonight's event. On behalf of the organizing units, the King Faisal University College of Applied Medical Sciences, Department of Nursing, in collaboration with King Faisal University Deanship of Development and Quality Assurance, I would like to welcome you all to our webinar entitled One Leadership Journey, Balancing Plans and Opportunities. This webinar is the 7th event of the global virtual series, Learning from Nursing Leaders, Learned Through Lived Experiences. This series of free virtual events offer an opportunity for professional growth and development for all nurses, most especially nurse leaders. It involves narrative storytelling about each of the leaders' leadership journey. This approach is intended to focus on thinking anew about the experiences they co-create with participants, rather than on the elements common in conventional pedagogies, and to interpret shared experiences of learning and practicing nursing leadership. In addition, this free global virtual event series provides an opportunity for participants to listen to the stories of leaders sharing their expertise, challenges, success, insights, and wisdom that is intended to inspire and touch the hearts of the 21st century nurses and will be open to the general public. The event objective includes, first, deepening of the understanding of the nurse leaders' journey and impact in their careers, encourage participants with real-life exemplary leadership practices and experiences as narrated by the nurse leaders, and lastly, to inspire participants with stories filled with meaningful ways to transform their nursing career journey and leadership own story. It is always our pleasure to have a diverse group of nurses coming from the academe, practice, and administration within and outside the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We appreciate your attendance tonight, and we hope that this evening will be a great learning experience for all. To make our session a healthy and productive environment, let's keep the following points in mind. First, always keep your microphones on mute. This reduces the background noise and distraction. Microphones can pick up background sounds that may not bother you, but may bother the speaker and other attendees. If you want to say something, please raise your hand and wait for the moderator to acknowledge you before unmuting. Second, be fully present. Pay attention and participate actively. Avoid doing other tasks during the webinar because distractions limit learning. Third, be responsible in the chat box. Use the chat box for questions or comments regarding the presentation, and be mindful of what you are writing. Think before you click, since reading comments is not the same as hearing them. Fourth, for your questions and clarifications, we would really love to hear from you, so please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. However, if you cannot access the chat box, don't worry, because we shall run a live Q&A at the end of the webinar. So you may feel free to ask questions or clarify or even share experiences relevant to our discussion. Don't be afraid or shy to ask questions, because our resource speaker will be more than willing to accommodate your questions. At the end of the webinar, we will be sending a webinar link evaluation wherein you will be asked to accomplish the webinar evaluation. To be able to get a certificate, you must do the evaluation first. Please make sure to type the correct name for your certificates. We need your first name, middle name, and family name. And you have to stay with the webinar at least 70% of the time so that the certificates will be released for you. We hope that these online etiquettes would help foster a good learning environment for everyone. And if you are a new participant or haven't followed our social media accounts yet, please do so to get a real-time updates on our upcoming events. Follow us at the following accounts for Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Now that we've covered the basics of the netiquettes, we're ready to get started. So to start our event for tonight, I would like to call in our leader and the driving force for this project to come into fruition. He is currently leading both the BSN and MSN Nurse Educator track in the College of Applied Medical Sciences, Department of Nursing at the King Faisal University. He is the leader for the development of many educational programs, especially these Lessons from Nursing Leaders Global Virtual Series. He truly capitalized the benefits of virtual learning platforms to reach and expand learning to many different places that it can reach. He is a Gallup certified strengths coach and a current commissioner for certifications and item writer in the National League for Nursing, specifically for CNE and CNE examinations. Dr. Benjamin?
Thank you so much, Dr. Joanne. So we're actually waiting for our participants to come in, and it is always such a pleasure to be attending these kinds of events. So, you know, especially using this platform, I like what you said about the webinar etiquette. It is really such a way for us to have a meaningful event. But tonight, I would like to talk about some of the things that we have learned. And one of the things that I have learned all throughout the different sessions that we have done is actually the importance of diversity. And as you can see, we are gathered again, as I am always saying, every events. Even if we came from different places, we are all gathered here as one and as nurses. And I can see that it is a strength because it is a mixture of different colors, different, there is what we call diversity of thought as well. And that unique strength of character that emanates also from each one of us who are living and working in many different places around the world. So there are so many things that we have learned. And I think from our first webinar, we learned about the 11 principles to success. And there are so many highlights in that event. And we are really truly grateful on how it touched our inner being because it is a story that is grounded from deep experiences, including the unpleasant ones, and how it can impact a person or someone in unimaginable ways, and to be able to influence the people around them because of that. And of course, we have learned something related to clinical reasoning as well. We learned from Dr. Pisut the importance also of lifelong learning, and we also learned that we have to be innovative and we need to try to do our best to always think of ways to go outside the box. We have learned about transformational leadership. We've learned about the importance of teamwork, particularly in our pursuit of excellence in terms of our careers and in terms of our lives as well. And one of the topics also that I actually learned a lot is one of our speakers also with Dr. Boss when he said that our past actually has a meaningful impact on how also we are living our life at the present, but in a meaningful way or in meaningful ways. And another thing is one of the topics that we have discussed from last week, which is the importance of leadership, particularly in our digital world nowadays. And we are really truly grateful because of all these learning experiences. And I can really say that one thing from the bottom of my heart is that when you deal with leaders or with true leaders, you will really get to see their humility. And all the leaders who have spoke in the previous events, you can really show how grounded they are, particularly when they are sharing us their stories. And I'm one of those lucky people who are able to listen to the wisdom of those leaders that who graced our nights with learning and wisdom. And to start or formally start our event tonight, let me call in Dr. Butayna Hassan, one of our faculty members in the Department of Nursing, to introduce our speaker for tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Benjamin, for welcoming our participant. Let me now introduce our renowned leader for this evening. Dr. Nancy taught and directed the PhD program in the Fitzpatrick College of Nursing at the Villanova University in Pennsylvania, USA, for 35 years, with a specialty in women's health. Her research, spanning 4 decades, had addressed women's experience of health and life transitions, including menopause, hysterectomy, childbearing in a foreign country, a diagnosis of HIV, disabilities, and especially most recently, vision loss. She was the co-PI on a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation grant to examine the effect on senior faculty of the Institute of Medicine recommendation that the number of doctorally prepared nurses be doubled by the year 2020. She has over 180 publications in journals that include Nursing Research, Advances in Nursing Science, the American Journal of Maternal and Child Nursing, Image, Nursing Education Perspectives, and others. Dr. Nancy began her career as a staff nurse in the neonatal intensive care unit at New York Hospital, Cornell University College of Medicine in the New York City. She began her teaching career at Lehman College in the City University of New York and subsequently taught for several years at the University of Delaware. Prior to joining the faculty of Villanova University, Dr. Nancy served as the visiting lecturer at St. Luke College of Nursing in Tokyo in her short-term consultation in her capacity as an overseas associate for the Presbyterian Church USA. She previously served as the short-term consultant for the World Health Organization in Bangladesh. She served 8 years in the U.S. Army Reserve. Dr. Nancy earned her PSN at Indiana University in Indianapolis, where she currently serves as a member of the Dean's Advisory Committee, and in 2014, she was identified as one of the top 100 alumni in this school's history. She earned her MA and PhD at the New York University. She had served as a member of the 2 advisory committees in the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and she was elected to 4 terms as treasurer of Sigma Theta International. She was inducted as a fellow in the American Academy of Nursing in 1990 and a fellow in the Academy of Nursing Education in 2017. Upon retirement from her faculty role in 2021, she remains engaged in consultation and volunteer work for various professional and community associations. Now, the floor is yours, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. I just want to say good evening to you. Good morning to people in Europe and North America, not Europe, I guess. I want to thank King Faisal University and the College of Applied Medical Sciences and Development and Quality Assurance. I want to thank Dr. Brebenaria for inviting me. I want to call out that today is International Women's Day all around the world. That's the United Nations acknowledgement. I want us to have a moment of thought or prayer for all of our friends and colleagues who are suffering from war and displacement wherever they are, but currently we have a new one going on. I want to thank Sigma Theta Tau International for bringing Dr. Brabonaria and me into contact. And I want to name 4 of my former students who are in Saudi Arabia. I would be guilty if I didn't say hello to them, whether they are here or not, but their friends may be. So Dr. Raja Jadalhak, Majid Al-Amri, Amal Al-Khatani, and Wad Ali. And I have other friends and former students on the call, but I will make a mistake and leave somebody out and use up all our time. So that's, I will stop with that. But thank you for the honor of inviting me, and how great that COVID got us out of our box of thinking broadly how to meet there's over 100 of you from over 15 countries. And isn't that great that COVID made us start doing this? So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nancy. And really, it is indeed our pleasure. And honestly speaking, especially in the introduction, I would have to admit that I'm a bit nervous. Doctor, because I feel like I am in the same room with my mentor and with my teacher. So it's a totally different feeling, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Doctor, we are very curious about your journey, and all throughout the sessions that we had from the leaders who spoke in the last few weeks and months, we have really learned a lot. And one of the things that strike us, or especially me, is by looking at the title of your story, One Leadership Journey, Balancing Plans and Opportunities. And I feel like that this topic is very relevant, particularly with nurses or those who are early career nurses, or those are also mid-career nurses, or those people who are having a hard time to navigate ways on how they are going to make their career path seamless. So that's how I look at it, because around the world, of course, many nurses are working in diverse environments, and also working with diverse professionals as well. And they are in different situations that are, probably something that is new to them, or experiences that are quite challenging. And I feel like that from the title itself, it is really something that we can reflect upon by listening to your story, and really trying to understand and learn from that in-depth experiences that you had throughout your career.
Mm.
So if there are some questions, Doctor, that I think all of us needs to know, because of course, all of the participants are nurses. So I think my first question is, how did you decide to become a nurse? Because I think that's the first question that everyone is curious.
Thank you. It's very interesting. I grew up in a tiny little town in the middle of the United States, a little rural town, and my father was a physician in that town, primary care, family practice, general practice physician. And my mom was a nurse, but she ran the business of his office, but she mainly did not work after she had children. So I used to go on house calls with my dad when I was 3 and 4 years old. We would go to people's houses who were sick and couldn't get to his office, and he would take me in there. And nowadays that would not be allowed. It would be illegal, violation of privacy and all. But I did ride around with my dad, and I thought that a career in medicine or nursing was a possibility. But then I was a music student starting at age 6. And when I was in high school, I thought that I was going to music school. And I did apply, and I got into Indiana University, has a very, very fine music school. I went to college. I was 17 years old. And my first lesson with the piano professor was a disaster. It was a disaster. And I decided instantly to quit music. My parents had very wisely told me I must go to a full university, not a music conservatory, just in case that happened. And it did happen. So I spent my first year of college thinking, what will I be? What will I be? And that summer I decided I will check out the nursing school. And I did. I started in nursing. I liked it, much to my shock. I liked it. I did well. And I had teachers who said, you're doing well. You should think about being a nursing teacher. And that is how it happened. I did not really, when I was in high school, plan nursing. I planned music. So it was a funny twist of the road.
But that's also kind of interesting, doctor, because like, for example, as one of your mentees, I mean, in real life, it's a part of your story that is actually quite surprising. But at the same time, also, I am sure that you still find the time to still engage yourself in music, because I think also music is something that, how can I say, that inspires us, or in many different ways, because it is also a form of art.
That's true.
Yeah.
In fact, I have, you know this, Benjo, I have a cello teacher. One of my retirement goals was to start learning how to play the cello. I started in only 13 months ago. My teacher is 28 years old. But he is the master to me. He is my teacher. And I think about at each stage of my life how I keep learning from people. I have learned so much from him, and he has such patience with this old lady. It's really wonderful.
That's really great, doctor. And I think from that story alone, from your teacher that you had during your younger years, and during the time that you were learning music in that process, I feel like it's also one of the most very important and relevant question to ask. Because for a person like you, and someone that I envision to be, I mean, a successful nurse leader like you, who are some of the mentors, I mean, who inspired you along the way?
I have had a lot of great mentors, and I would say each stage of my life, each activity, each job, there's been somebody who has mentored me. So I'll give some examples. My piano teacher, when I was a little kid, I didn't stay in piano, but I learned what I call bottom to bench discipline. My bottom on the bench for several hours a day is the same discipline that got me through a PhD, got me to sit down and write articles, got me to do all the work I had to do. Bottom to bench discipline I learned from my piano teacher. And I wrote, she was over 100 years old when she died. And I was able to say, I know you were sad that I didn't turn out to be a pianist, but I am what I am because of bottom to bench discipline. Every job I've had. But in recent years, I've reflected on, certainly my dean at Villanova was a wonderful mentor. I've had my dissertation chair was a wonderful mentor who later was a personal friend and sent me her daughter to be my nanny. In recent years, I've reflected on what I've learned from unusual teachers. My dog training teacher, I learned so much from my dog training teacher. I have learned a lot when I have gone to art classes, and I'm learning so much from my 28-year-old cello teacher. I'll also tell you, when I got on the board of Sigma Theta Tau, Dan Pescitt was the president of the board, and he was a colleague, but I learned so much from him. We were in similar jobs, but he taught me the importance of trying to be a futurist and of continually scanning the culture for what's going on, because everything going on in society affects our work. So he taught me that. So each time, now that I'm in retirement, I have mentors in how to do retirement, how to take care of my spouse. You know, I find people who teach me. It never stops.
I honestly agree with you, doctor, because being engaged myself in a mentorship experience is such, like something that is rewarding. I mean, for any professional, whether you're a nurse or not, because in that experience also, you will get to learn gratitude, particularly on how your mentors also acknowledge the people who mentored them. And when you are looking at your mentor on a perspective of a mentee, it's like the way you look at them with their body of work, years of experience, and wisdom, it already emits a kind of power and a kind of energy that fills in your cup. That's how I see it. Because like in my own personal experience, like when we are, when I'm dealing with our conversations, and just that even simple remarks For a mentee, it's powerful. For a mentee, it is something that uh, they take it to their heart and they take it to their mind. And let me give Doctor an example. Like when you mentioned about that when we are telling our stories, it's very important that our minds and our hearts are connected, because it is not only that we share our stories to the people whom we want to inspire, but at the same time also we need to be practicing and living that inspiration or experiences that we are sharing that to the people that we want to empower. And for me, that is really very relevant and very meaningful on a perspective of a mentee. So, but doctor, I'm very curious because when we deal with mentors, we look at the mentors and we really get a lot of learnings and experiences and wisdom. Did you ever get an experience wherein you get wrong advice from your mentors or from a mentor?
I can think of two examples, and I share this with my own PhD students. Don't just swallow everything I tell you, because mentors can be wrong. So you have to learn to discern. But I can tell you two stories. One is the day I defended my PhD, which was on the topic of menopause. I chose that because I was in women's health and I had observed that there was no literature in nursing about menopause. Isn't that interesting? In a predominantly female profession, that we overlooked a universal experience, unless you die before you're 50. And nobody had addressed this. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. And so that was my dissertation. On the day that I defended, which was December 14th in 1983, the chair of the department, the head of the PhD program, and then she became the chair of the nursing department, said to me, well, it's good that you got that out of your system. Now forget about that and find a topic people care about. I then went off to Japan with this kind of searing, insult in my brain. I came back from Japan 2 years later and everybody is studying menopause. Books have come out about menopause. And I thought that she was wrong. Lots of people care about it. Another thing that happened was actually the same person. When I was in Tokyo, she came into my school, St. Luke's University, as an esteemed lecturer. And, I was the foreign person on the faculty, so I entertained foreign people who came to visit, all the foreign people. And she and I were out somewhere, maybe we were at the zoo, and she said, you ruined your career by leaving the country. So again, I felt just terrible. I felt terrible. I was 31 years old and my career was ruined. Well, I got back to the United States, and I will say most of the blessings in my career have come because I lived and worked overseas. So she was wrong on that count too. Now, she's not a bad person. I like her a lot. We still email, but she was wrong on both of those things. And probably that was a product of her own career, her own experience. So be discerning, and it's fine to get advice from multiple people along the way, and then you have to be discerning about it. But I was startled later on to realize how wrong this advice was.
That's excellent, doctor, because it's really kind of enlightening, especially for those who will be, like, for example, taking some piece of information or maybe some remarks that might probably affect a person's perception of something. So that is really, I feel, is kind of enlightening.
And I think let me just say, excuse me, I think the lesson is that there are multiple ways. There are multiple ways. There's not one way. There's not Nancy's way is should be Ben's way. No, that's not right.
That's excellent. And looking at your long career, doctor, particularly when you were in nursing school, how did you envision your future career? How did you envision that?
So I said before, when I was in nursing school, I had faculty, and this is important, all of us who are faculty, look to our students. And if you think somebody might be a good administrator or a good teacher, we are desperate to develop new teachers and administrators. Tell them. They don't have to wait until they're 50 years old to think about this. So people told me that. And so I thought that I knew that that this is one plan that I absolutely made. I knew that I was going to go to graduate school early in my career. And I plotted with my boyfriend, who became my husband, where in the United States there were graduate schools that both of us would like to go to. I'm not the same school, but the same city, where were there places where both of us could find a good graduate school? So that was the planning. And I did work for a couple of years in neonatal ICU, and then I did start my master's at NYU. So I thought when I was in college, I would go to graduate school and I would work as a nurse and I would become a teacher of nursing, just like my teachers of nursing. But I never thought of anything beyond that. That was what I thought I would do. I thought I would be like my teachers, just like my teachers. And I didn't see them as, some of them were, but I didn't know it, as very engaged in the profession nationally and internationally. I didn't know that.
Also, doctor, what you said a while ago is, again, an eye-opener, because it's like, as you mentioned, and as you said a while ago, we should not be waiting until you reach 50. But if you see the potential, you need to capitalize on that, or to empower those people that you see have the potential to be educators and leaders. So that is really kind of very important as well. So you have shared, doctor, that serendipity has played a great role in your career. Could you talk about that? And should people plan their careers?
Yeah, the whole theme that I really wanted to, and we'll hit on it several times, I think, that I really wanted people to think about today was opportunities come up. And so you have heard from other people that you need a 5-year plan, right? Or a 10-year plan. Everybody should have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I never had those things. I knew I was going to get my graduate education accomplished early in my life. I knew that I wanted to finish graduate school before I had a child, because I didn't know how you do both of those things at the same time. Many of you in the audience have done that, but I just couldn't imagine it. So that was the plan that I had: graduate school and then family. And that's what I did. But in terms of opportunities that came along, it's been amazing. I mean, every job that I've had after the first one in neonatal ICU has been a friend suggesting, here's this position. My dissertation chair suggesting, why don't you go teach at Lehman College with my friend Leah, or B, why don't you go, and B, my boss at Lehman, say, why don't you go teach at Delaware with my friend Edith? And then when I was at Delaware, I knew the dean at Villanova. So when I came back from Japan, why don't I go work with my friend Louise at Villanova? So it's been those connections. Here's a really amazing example for me. I'm at the University of Delaware in the early 1980s. My boss, Tara, was a wonderful nurse from Nepal. And her husband was the minister of population planning in Nepal. So they were upper class family in a caste system country. And her mother was sick back home in Kathmandu. So she took a job. She left Delaware and went to Bangladesh with WHO to be near, it was a half-hour flight, so to be near mother. And she said to me as she's leaving, will you come work with me in the summer? And I'm like, sure. Lo and behold, little did I expect a telegram to come saying you have an assignment at WHO in Dhaka. I mean, I did not expect this to really happen, but it happened. And I went to my dean at Delaware, Edith Anderson, and I said, what do? I have to finish a dissertation. And she said, you go to Bangladesh. That's more important. And so I did. And it was pretty short notice, you know, and it disrupted school a little. And I was a little bit late getting back for the fall semester at my job, but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. My Japan experience was like that too. You know, my husband decided to do a fellowship in Tokyo. What do? I circulate my curriculum vitae to religious organizations because I couldn't think of any other way to access healthcare in Japan. And it caught. And I ended up in an Anglican Christian university in Tokyo through those church connections. And that was a difficult experience, but a valuable one in the rest of my life, valuable one for the rest of my life. So those were two things I never, ever expected to happen that were really key to the whole rest of my career. However, we can get inundated with opportunities. And so you can't just grab every opportunity that comes your way, or you'll be spinning in a circle. You know, there's so many, we are such a precious commodity, nurses. You know that now, especially after COVID, nurses are such a precious commodity, lots of opportunities. So you can't just grab every opportunity or you'll be, you know, you won't have a theme in your career, but you do have a lot of choice.
That's also, Dr. very enlightening, because you mentioned a while ago that you need to have like a 3-year or a 5-year plan. But in your case, I mean, looking back, you don't have those, I mean, that kind of opportunity, structure, I mean, for your, okay, a structured plan for your career. So what's interesting on that, doctor, is that when you get to have that plan, particularly for young nurses who are here and young nurses like us, a part of that plan or having that kind of plan is actually to have a strong mentor or to have a mentor as well in the process of doing that. Because, doctor, that's actually one of the things that I learned. When I am looking from your years of experience and also all your accomplishments, like for example, your involvement in the National League for Nursing, and you were such one of the leaders there, particularly who jump-started this certification program, and one of those people who have written books related to the certifications. So for a mentor, for a mentee, to be planning their career trajectory or career development, to have those people who have the insights, experiences, and knowledge when it comes to the process is also what makes that career trajectory very strong for the men. Doctor. But doctor, I'm interested also, what are some of the key leadership development experiences that you had?
Thank you. Leadership experiences go way back. You know, when we're in school, there's often student government in high school, college. I was always a person who wanted to understand how the system worked. So I always got involved in student government when I was in, even starting back in 4th grade, we had a class officers, you know, who met with the teacher and stuff. And I always wanted to know what was going on. So that was my motivation for that. Always did student government all the way through graduate school. And even now in my retirement community, I got involved in retirement community government. So I like to know what's going on. My first leadership role in a job was when I was in college. I was the head lifeguard of a camp, a summer camp for children. I was the head lifeguard, so I had 2 other lifeguards under me. And not just the pool was our domain, but the kitchen cleanup, you know, we were the dishes cleanup people. We were the lawn mowing people. So I had to organize the work among three of us. That was a good experience. My first boss job. I've had Army Reserve officers training. That's been great. I've had, when I got to the board of Sigma Theta Tau International, I was 50 years old, but Dan Peschet was the chairman of the board. I studied the leaders around me on that board, especially Dan, to learn more about leadership. And, but really along the way, it's been my engagement in professional organizations where you volunteer and boy, the next thing you know, you're a committee chair. And then the next thing you know, you're an officer of the chapter. And so all through, from the time I joined Sigma Theta Tau in 1975, I've always been active in some role in my chapter or region or now internationally. I'm
Doctor,
still
that was,
board
that
too.
was actually, that was so great in the sense that when we are having some of our conversations and we talked about men in nursing, and then you suddenly told me that Dr. Pisut is one of the men leaders in nursing, and actually at that time I started I communicated with him. So it is really such a pleasure to be getting that input from you as well. And then eventually waiting for maybe, I think after 2 months or 3 months, he was one of our speakers. So that's really great. Another thing, doctor, that I would like to ask, how did professional organizations, because you mentioned um, some professional organizations, so how do these professional associations foster your development as a leader?
I'm going to go back to my student years at Indiana. The American Nurses Association, which is our national association, has a national student nurses association, and they have chapters in schools. And I joined that, and this is really a problem because I'm a white lady, you know, but I was in charge of the diversity initiative in my school, which is a sad commentary. I don't say that as a bragging thing. I say that as too bad. They could only find me to do it. But what I got out of that experience was being in an environment where all the leaders were women. It was the first time in my life that I was in an environment where all the leaders were women. And we just had a few guys in our class in nursing school. They had all come back from being soldiers in Vietnam and wanted to become nurses, just a few. So leadership with women was something that really I learned in my student experience in the Student Nurses Association. But then I was inducted into Sigma Theta Tau. I moved to New York City from the middle of the country. I didn't know a single person in New York City except my husband. And so I changed my chapter membership to a chapter near me to meet people. And then when I went to graduate school at NYU, I was learning from famous nurses who were active in the chapter. Martha Rogers was my teacher. She was active in our chapter. You know, we learned how to plan conferences, and she introduced us to people, and you start to build the network. It was all about starting to build the network. And in terms of how besides building the network, which is the most important thing, you know, you gain experiences, you gain recognition, people invite you to do another thing, a bigger thing, and you start to grow doing things you never thought you could do. I didn't know that I could plan a research conference at NYU, but I did. And then the next thing you know, I hear from Nell Watts, was the director of Sigma Theta Tau for many years. And I get a call from Nell Watts, would I be a committee chair for Sigma Theta Tau International? And that was how that work began. And it was only much later that I ever thought that I would run for office at the national level. So it's a building process, but it's, so the important things are you show up, you volunteer, you say yes when they ask you to do some things, not everything. Remember, you don't want to be running around like a crazy person. And then you do what you say you're going to do. You follow through, you keep your commitments. And then at the end, you thank the people who helped you. That's really important. You thank the people who helped you. So I used to always, back in the day before email, I would sit down and write thank you notes to all my committee members after every term of service or after every project, and mail them with stamps. So now we can do it so easily online, but it's really important to
Doctor,
acknowledge.
since we have a lot of professionals here from different fields in nursing, and for an early career professional, what can you advise them to get more leadership opportunities?
The world of nursing all over the world is starved for leadership, starved for leadership. And all of us in local chapters of any organization know that getting somebody to run a conference or plan a fundraising event, it can be really hard. So, or run for office. So pick one thing in a year and say, I'm going to try this new thing, and just do it. Put yourself out there. And even if you don't get picked for that thing, the people in leadership in that group say, oh, well, that person volunteered. I bet they'll do something else that we asked them to do. And Sigma operates that way. If you run for office in Sigma and you lose, I promise you they will invite you to do something else and give you an opportunity to grow. So you didn't lose, you gained. I just got a question in the chat here about, does personality matter and how do you develop your personality? Here's a secret. Ben might know this, I can't remember. I am an introvert on the what is it? You know, the test we do to learn our leadership traits. I am actually an introvert, so it's not natural for me to really get out there and put myself on display. I mean, when I do that, I have to go home and rest. You know, I like quiet time to get over, because that's not my natural way of doing. But I've learned the way to do it is if you always keep your thoughts on the other people. What am I doing for the other people? Not what am I doing for me? Not that, not ever that. What am I doing for the other people? And if you're doing it for the other people, even an introvert can rise to the occasion.
That's so excellent. I think a lot of people, that statement resonated with a lot of people, because there are really many different shapes and sizes when it comes to leadership. So, Doctor, what is discernment about opportunities important? And is there such a thing as too many opportunities?
Yeah, I really want to tell you a lesson I learned from a friend back in music school. I had a friend who's an oboe player, and she had a map of the United States. And you know, every orchestra has only one or two oboe players, there's not lots of them. She had a pin on the map of every orchestra that had a paid oboe position in the whole country. And she knew who they were. And she knew if they got sick or if they died or if they moved. and then she would decide based on where they are, do I want to apply for that position? So I don't do it for the whole country, but because I didn't feel a need in my career to move around after I settled in Philadelphia. My son was stable. That was very important to me. So Philadelphia was my home, but commuting from Philadelphia includes, you know, New York and Washington. We have a lot of things going on in our area. So I always kept an eye on positions in my region. I have even gone on interviews in my region, but I never was tempted. I never thought it was going to be better than what I had. What I had was pretty good. So my consideration for keeping an eye on opportunities was, did it require me to uproot my family? I wasn't interested in that. So what are your priorities? That's an important thing. What's the geographic area that you are open to? And then what are the opportunities in that geographic area that you're willing to watch? And then specifically, you know, what are the pros and the cons of the opportunity that catches your eye? And then go check it out. And then you weigh, what is it worth moving or not moving? The other thing that happened is increasingly we got a little, even before COVID, we got a little removed from having to do all of our business in person. So you could be engaged in national and international organizations by telephone instead of having to, fly off around the world. So we've learned new ways of working that vastly open up your opportunities. Now, as for the question of too many opportunities, as long as you're committed to your employer, you have to get that job done. And as long as you have family commitments, you have to make sure those are taken care of. And so you have to be very good stewards of your time and your health and your energy. Because if you take on too much and drag yourself down and get sick, then your family and your work, your students, your nurses that you're supervising, they do not benefit. Your patients, nobody benefits from this. So you have to think about, where are there synchronicities between my work and my professional activities? Or how does this job opportunity help me develop in a way that doesn't go off in a crazy direction? How does it work together to address my priorities, my family, get my job done, and continue to grow in my professional development? So you have to think of yourself holistically, with good attention to your self-care along the way.
That's so excellent, Doctor. And I'm sure majority there are a lot of faculty members here, particularly our faculty members in the Department of Nursing, listen to that statement. I think we all learn from that. And since there are so many opportunities that might open to any professional or any nurse, and what happens, Doctor, when you realize that you have a mismatch between yourself and an opportunity that you have taken or you have chosen?
I see people handle that in different ways. Sometimes people are able, financially, for example, to say right away, this is a mismatch. I am respectfully leaving this opportunity. This is not a good fit between me and this group, me and the organization. And do it nice, always do it nice. Don't ever leave angry. Do not ever leave angry. You do not know how your connections will come back together in 10 or 20 or 30 years. You never know. So I think the advice of sticking to the I statements is good. I see a mismatch here, and I don't think I can change to fit the needs of this group, whatever it is. And unless you're dealing with something, immoral or unethical or illegal, then I think it's okay to leave angry. But most of the time, it's not that. I think another thing is some people will say, okay, I will give it 2 years. 2 years is a respectable time to be in a position and then move on. But when I'm looking at job candidates, if it's 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, that's not good. So, but if it's one experience where it wasn't a great fit and you can say, I can hang in here for 2 years, that's okay. 3 is even better. 3 is sort of the national average for how long people stay in a job. Another thing people might say is, I will finish one term, whatever a term is, one contract, 1 3-year appointment, 1 3-year term elected to something. I will do my term and then I will move on. So it depends on how stressed you are by the situation. Of course, it depends on your personal finances. So, that's one reason why it's good to try not to be in debt, so that you have freedom to move if you need to, but that's not always something we can control. But I think in general, when you leave a position, you always want to leave nicely. You can always give some observations at the end. Here's some things I've observed about the organization, some areas that I hope it will develop in, because I'm very fond of the people here, which is usually true, right? We're usually fond of our colleagues and students, no matter what's going on. try to do it nicely, because you're going to run into these people again in your career.
Actually, Doctor, we can't help by just to listen deeply with those statements, because since the audience in this event are all diverse and generationally diverse as well, and we have early career nurses, I feel like that the experiences that you shared will really help most of us, whatever stage in our career we are.
I have a question here that I want to answer briefly. Do I think that the chances now are less than the old days? Oh, no, absolutely not. Opposite. It's opposite. There's a shortage of people. And I think this is global, not just the United States. There's a shortage of people who want to do nursing education or nursing leadership, nursing management, nursing administration. And there's even, I mean, in this country, people work for a few years and then most of them want to be nurse practitioners or anesthetists, which is sort of where the better salaries are. So there's a big shortage of people who want to rise in the clinical ladder. Or okay, we had a mute breakthrough. So there's lots and lots of opportunities. So I would never worry about that. And if you're in an institution where your opportunities to change and grow are limited, you probably are not in an area where there are no other institutions around. And even if you are, increasingly, there are jobs where you can work by distance, virtually. So I think that will increase our opportunities. You are a precious commodity, and do not fear that there's not going to be opportunities for you. And also the population is getting older, and we of the older generation are using a lot of healthcare. So the need for nurses keeps growing. So that also feeds the need for teachers.
But Doctor, really, I really personally, I really liked those statements, because it's also a way for you to tell us that we are worthy and we are all important, and that there are a lot of opportunities for all of us, or especially in our profession. And I feel like that is very important, particularly for those who have fear of transitioning from one workplace to another. So for us to be able to hear those kinds of statements and is something that I feel like so empowering, particularly for those who are not in a good situation nowadays in terms of their work environment and workplaces. Yes. And Doctor, I'm curious also, because of course, in any successful journey of a leader or professional, a part of that is failure. And my question is, what happens when a leader fails or makes a mistake?
It happens all the time. And I think the first thing to do is acknowledge it with whomever, with your team, with your student, with your boss. I have made a mistake. I am so sorry. I have made a mistake. Here's the mistake that happened. Here's why I think it happened. I'm very sorry, but I'm committed to trying to fix the mistake, or I'm committed to trying to make it up to the person. But sometimes, it's in history, it's what's done is done. And all you can do is stand up in front of the group and say, I really blew it. This is bad. And if you guys want to get another leader, please feel free. And they usually say no. Let me think. I just had that experience with a doctoral dissertation. This is a small example, but my student was defending her dissertation, and I circulated the final dissertation to the readers, the committee, and the program director. I had read this thing a million times, so I didn't go back to read it again until like 4 days before the defense, and I realized it was not the final version, and it was all marked up with track changes. I was mortified because the people who are judging her are seeing this. and going to evaluate her badly. And I didn't want to alarm the student, so I didn't say anything. But at the beginning of the defense, the first thing I said was, Dean, chair, committee, readers, I really blew it. I sent you the wrong version and made it much harder for you to read, and I am so sorry. And they're all, that's fine. Later, I apologized to the student and I said, you will never hire me again for a dissertation chair. And she said, that's fine. But I was mortified. And what can you do but admit it? Just admit it and not let the blame get deflected to the student. The student did not make this mistake. I did. I was so puzzled that vice dean, the program director, and 4 readers and committee members and the student, none of them told me I made a mistake. They all knew it, but none of them told me. And that's puzzling, but I think they were being deferential. Oh, Nancy was the program director, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was a really, what a mess, but it all
But
worked.
Doctor,
It all
it
worked.
can also be the other way around, Doctor. Maybe they are thinking that you have this extreme level of competence when it comes to that, and sure, and they clear to them that it's just a mistake that was not intentional for sure.
Didn't want it to hurt the student. I didn't want it to hurt the student, and it didn't.
But you know, Doctor, what's really great about that part of your storytelling is that your when you showed humility also, because I feel like one of the commonalities, honestly, that I have seen with leaders and powerful leaders is their humility. And for them to be able to acknowledge when they do something that was not right, and to have that willpower also and authenticity to say that to the people whom they are serving, because it also shows that you care for those people. Like with what you were saying a while ago, you care for the student and
Right.
also for the passion that you're bringing in your work. So I feel like that is really I mean, it shows humility. So, Doctor, what are some of the most important things that you have learned over the course of your career, and what has been most satisfying or most surprising?
Most important thing, two most important things I've learned. What matters the most is not, how smart we are or how many articles we wrote. That's not what matters the most. What matters the most is, are you a person of integrity, and your relationships. The relationships are what matters the most. And I didn't figure that out until the last decade of my career, that everything we do, our work with a student, our work with a colleague, our work with our secretary, our work with our boss, our work with the clinical agencies, all of that is building positive relationships. That's how we get our work done. It is only through building positive relationships. If you are the nurse at the bedside and you want the patient to, manage their diabetes, you have to have a good relationship with that person to get them to buy into the regime, because it's not easy day in and day out, and encouraging them. Same with our students. If we are a punitive kind of a person, our student operates out of fear. That doesn't help them be a competent and compassionate nurse, right? And if we operate that way with our team, out of being a fear-based, fear-driving leader, that doesn't help them be the best teachers or best nurses or best managers they can be. We always want everybody to be the best they can be. And it's through positive relationships, much more than imparting punishments and so on, that bring that about. And the greatest satisfaction about that is that here I am in retirement, and there is not a day that goes by that I'm not communicating with somebody that I've known professionally, students, colleagues, friends through my organizations. Every single day, my life is full of social contact with people that I'm friends with because we did nursing together. And so that's been by far the greatest reward. And the greatest surprise, the greatest surprise is that I came from this little poor town in the middle of the United States, and I've lived in New York and Tokyo, and I'm in this beautiful environment and affiliated with a great university. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's like a fairy tale.
But honestly, doctor, sometimes we don't see that. But things happens to us because we have planted that seed, as you mentioned a while ago, building positive relationships. And I feel like, doctor, you were able to, even you are surprised that you are in that circle that even you cannot imagine. But really, the reality there is that you have shown humility, you have worked so hard. And I'm actually one of those people who listen to that narrative um, of yours. And when you plant those seeds, particularly with the people around you, as you said, positive relationships, along the way or in your journey, um, it has an impact. I mean, how can I say it? It just continues to grow and grow and grow, and eventually put us in this place to a different place of growth and wisdom. So I feel like, doctor, it's like that. I mean, in my own perspective and opinion, and also because of my experience of listening to your narrative. So, doctor, I'm one of those people who are so amazed and how can I say it? One of the people who idolize you in terms of your body of work. And honestly speaking, you have a lot of um, things that you have done in your career that are really outstanding and something that is admirable and something that is even in my journey right now, I'm currently in that path. Like, for example, to be working with NLN and to be able to have a conversation with you and learn from you, and also reading some of the articles that you have done with the certifications and all those kind of stuff. Um, Out of all that success and accomplishments and relationships or positive relationships that you have built and the impact you have made in the nursing profession in many different areas and also to the countries that you have visited, is there anything that you would have done differently looking back?
I don't have anything in my career looking back that I would do differently. If I were starting now in the United States, I would probably seek a postdoctoral fellowship. That seems to be a level of training that didn't exist when I was young, that gives people more skills to more easily navigate the academic system. So I would probably, if I were starting now, if I were 30 years old now, I would probably plan on doing a postdoc. But as I said, it didn't exist back then. And I guess one of the things I'll comment on is things are much more regulated now in healthcare and in higher education. I love that I grew up in a time where we had far less regulatory oversight. So that was nice, but now we have more. But the people who are young now don't know any differently. So I guess that's fine. I just want to comment. I've had a number of chat messages about the stress of leaders and bullying. So I want to comment briefly, and I'm not doing these issues service, but we have a limited amount of time. It is true that when you're the leader, the responsibility for the program is on your shoulders, and it's very stressful. And you have all these pieces of the puzzle that have to fit together every single day to make your program run. So it's really, really important that you build into your day self-care strategies. One of mine, my most important one, is that I pray and meditate every single morning for about a half hour. I get up at 6 in the morning, I do my meditation. I did it today, hoping the internet worked, all that kind of stuff. But that gets me settled to deal with all that responsibility. You have to take care of yourself. If you just get yourself exhausted, then your anxiety just keeps going up, and then you'll have a problem. Bullying in the workplace. What do we know about it? We know that it only goes away when the entire organization up to the very top has a zero tolerance policy. So the more we educate our profession about this problem, and our administrators and everybody in the system, what will get the system to pay attention to that is how much money it costs. It costs money to diminish the productivity and increase the turnover of your personnel. It costs money. That's what gets American administrators to listen. It costs money. So it's ugly, and it's but it goes away when there's zero tolerance. And the way we finally sell that to the top of the organization is when we show them that it costs money.
And honestly, Doctor, I want to interject something with what you said, because one of the things also that I have learned from you is that we are human beings. And I do not even know if you still remember that narrative that I learned from you. Sometimes also we really need to be very mindful of our actions, particularly with the people around us, because it might be also that at some point we don't even realize, or we don't even see that we are also shaming other people or shaming other people around us, or it's like mindfulness. I'm sure that if there is something also, Dr. Nancy, that I have learned from you are those statements, because that's really true. Sometimes we can say that we are hurt, or the people around us did something like this or did something like that, that honestly affected us or our well-being, for example. But on the other hand, also, we need to have that presence or listening presence as well, or the way we are, putting out our actions also to our environment. We need to be very mindful as well that for us not to be doing the same. And at the same time also, yes, not to be
Right.
doing the same.
Well, and the other thing about organizations is that we don't always understand the reasons for things that we don't like happening. There might be reasons that the people above us have for decisions they make that we think are terrible decisions, and we haven't heard the reasons. I mean, we're all people, we're all little people in a big system. We're all trying to do the best we can. And we all have personality quirks, so organizations are not easy. It's never easy.
Yeah, and it's never perfect also.
Yeah, right. Right.
Honestly, Doctor, that was such a powerful storytelling, because you were able to really give us a part of your experience that most of the nurses in this room can learn from. And all of those stories that you have mentioned are all driven from personal experiences, and especially about opportunities. The fact that there are a lot of nurses here from diverse backgrounds and different generations. It is really very important for us to think of on how we are going to balance our decision making when it comes to taking opportunities. And also the importance, Doctor, of what you said a while ago, self-care. I think this is always a part of our narrative, self-care strategies. So, Doctor, now I will be reading some questions from our participants. So we have some questions here.
Thank you.
As a batch leader, I always think to just stop and back up and give the opportunity for others, but students keep asking me not to stop since they trust me. But to the point of view is to stop when you're shining better than making more mistakes than stop. My question is, from your point of view, when it is the great time for the leader to back off from the leadership position and rest?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you. I tend to be of the school of mind that it is better to stop while you're still doing a really good job. You don't have to stop completely. There's always opportunities to be engaged in nursing, or in our schools, once we retire, we can be an emeritus professor, which means we can still be involved with students or projects or whatever. When I left Villanova in December of 2020, I had still 5 dissertation students, and I still have 4 of them. So I'm still engaged with that. I'm still engaged with Sigma Theta Tau. But because I left for family caregiving reasons. So I couldn't commit my schedule to meet the institution's needs any longer. And I knew that. And I didn't want them to start whispering about me. Oh, she skips meetings. She's not keeping her appointments. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to leave while I was still good and while I was still in control. So, so I chose to step back from full-time work so that my schedule did not become an issue in the program for real legitimate reasons. The other thing that I will say is one of the things we hear from younger faculty is we old people don't get out of the way to give them opportunities to rise up. And you have to take that into consideration. If you really are a steward of your profession, then you want the next generation of leaders to have an opportunity in a timely manner. So our sort of government retirement age is around 67 now. So that's a good age to leave. Don't stay till you're 80, or be part-time so that the people in their 40s and 50s have a job to rise into. I think it's kind of short-sighted not to give the next generation those opportunities. Well, and we're around to mentor them. That's a good thing.
That's also, Doctor, something that we need to reflect upon, because when a person already reached that stage of how can I say it, like we're able to have that kind of success and to be able to have that kind of fulfillment in their lives also. I think it's also one way for you to show on how you are paving the way for the young generations of nurses. And as you mentioned a while ago, what I like about what you mentioned a while ago, Doctor, is that you really do not need to wait. If you see the potential, then you have to support that, and you have to empower them, and you have to support them for them to be able to be the new breeds and generations of leaders. So there's a statement here, stage of saturation. It's like you need to give up when you're already in the stage of saturation. And there are also some comments here from some of our participants. Ms. Jennifer Samson mentioned about the importance of work-life balance. You cannot give what you don't have. We also have a statement here from Ms. Ada Almusa. The need for psychological safety within the environment function is very crucial. Also, Maria Jessica, one of our participants, mentioned about accountability and compassion to our staff. And Ms. Fatima also mentioned that being a leader means that you are the person who is responsible for everything. And I think that is the thing that makes us hate this position. So, and yes, Doctor, and we have some comments here as well. Very good sharing, very informative. Thank you. Very excellent team. And we have some people here also who have mentioned, we have a question actually, Doctor. There's a question here. I think that being a leader of a group is something that is actually a part of the person's personality. I think this was already, answered a while ago. Okay, thank you for this fabulous opportunity of sharing. So this time, Doctor, I think we will be talking about some of the questions from our faculty members. So we will be calling in some of the members of the College of Applied Medical Sciences Department of Nursing to ask their questions as well, and personal questions from what they have learned from you. So let me call on Dr. Joanne, please. Okay, let me call on Miss Rowena Abundo.
Hello, good evening, Dr. Nancy.
Hi,
How are
Dr.
you?
Good.
Okay. Actually, thank you very much for a very well-presented life experience being a leader of this generation. Actually, Doctor, I've heard about being the leadership issue that you have discussed, the success, the development. But I would like to ask some personal question about you. You've been here for a long time, mentoring, being a leader, educator. Okay. Um, but I would like to ask, at this time of your career, at this time of your life, do you still have regrets and desires in life?
Yes, I think the thing that I think about the most and I have regret about is how in the course of my career and in my life, I have hurt people unintentionally. I don't think I ever hurt somebody on purpose, but I have hurt people. Maybe I've hurt patients because I wasn't paying attention or I was working too quickly. I know I've hurt students because particularly early in my teaching career, I was one of those very strict young teachers, you know, the rules, all the rules, very important, loved the rules. And I've gotten much more relaxed the more secure I became as a teacher. So I wasn't trying to hurt students on purpose, but I was trying to make sure that they understood I was the teacher, you know. And so I'm sure I was hurtful in that regard. More, I would view student situations with more charity now because I know I can, right? As an administrator of my program, I know that I probably the same thing early on in my leadership experience. I'm sure that I was much more authoritarian than I was as I became comfortable and self-confident. So I'm sorry about that. It's not an unusual thing that we see. But that's the thing I regret the most, that I hurt people along the way because I was worried or I was rushed and that they didn't understand my good motivation, you know.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nancy. I still have another question. You mentioned about prioritizing your opportunity. You prioritize your opportunity all throughout your journey as a leader, Doc. Um, do you think those opportunities that you have gained in your career has a significance in your happiness in life that you are experiencing right now?
That is such an interesting question. I will tell you that the woman who brought me to Nepal was one of my best friends for the whole rest of her life until she died. And she was like a sister to me because we had that shared summer. And the people in Japan, I still have dear people in Japan who are personally important to me now. So in that way, my life was enriched. In terms of, you know, growing up in that little town in the middle of United States, little poor town, I didn't ever expect to travel abroad. I never expected that. It wasn't normal when I was young. So I've seen the world. That's unbelievable to me. That's been personally enriching. So those are ways. I'll also tell you of an opportunity that I wanted, that when it came, I knew the time was not right and I let it go and it feels fine. My dean at Villanova groomed me to be the dean after her. She would give me opportunities, sometimes very unpleasant assignments, but she would say, this is going to be good for you for someday when you're the dean. And then when the opportunity came, when it was time to get a new dean, I knew that my husband had dementia. And the president said to me, we want you to be the next dean. And I said, this is not good for Villanova. It is not good for my husband. It is certainly not good for me. This is terrible timing. So an opportunity came to me, but the timing was terrible. I feel really good about that decision, really good about that decision, because 3 great harms were averted by it.
Thank you very much, Doc.
And also, I want to interject something. You know, Dr. Nancy, the importance of that experience of yours is actually the importance of valuing our loved ones and our family.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I have learned from you, you actually even wanted me to read that book. One of the things that I have learned is, as you mentioned, it's really not about the number of articles that we do or the different kinds of success that we have, because in a survey or in a book that was written by Daniel Pink, really the regrets or the common regret of the people who live their life and have those kinds of regrets, it's really something that is related to their health, that they did not take care of their health. They uh, they have conflicts, like for example, within the family or all those kind of stuff. So that is really kind of something that is inspirational and something also that um, resonated with me, and I'm sure resonated with some of my colleagues as well. And actually, they were telling me that as well. So that is something that I feel like a lot of nurses and a lot of human beings like us needs to to look at, because at the end of the day, really what matters, we really need to be focusing on the things that really matters in our lives. And that was such also a very courageous decision from you. And at the same time also, the good thing about it is that you have no regrets doing it, because it's because of the people you love.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
doctor. And that is such we say it, a true lesson learned, honestly speaking. I mean, sometimes an ordinary person or an ordinary people will not think of that, because they are focusing on their success, they are focusing on accomplishments, they are focusing on their articles, but really going back to the ground and really looking at those stories, like your story, it is really something that we need to be very mindful. I mean, all of us in this webinar. So, Ms. Grema Baratas, one of our faculty members, also will be asking some questions. Ms. Grema Baratas, please.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, Dr. Nancy. Good morning in America.
Thank you.
Here's my question, Doc. With your numerous outstanding experiences about success, what are your unique ingredients on attaining all those exponential success stories of yours? Were there any difficulties you encountered that contribute to your immensely successful achievement? And could you please share to the participants or to the audience, what do you think are the qualities that a person should possess to become a successful leader?
Mm. So I think, first of all, keeping your ego out of the project is
Yes,
really important.
I
Why do
agree.
we're trying to succeed to benefit our students, our patients, our colleagues, not to make me great, right? And that if you don't do that, it will inevitably fail. I mean, the project may be a success, but everybody will be mad, you know, it will not be a good outcome. I think in terms of difficulties, we all encounter challenging personalities in our work. We all
Yes.
encounter them. So learning how to be respectful of our challenging personalities, but keep them reined in for the good of the group project, you know, that never ceases to be a challenge. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. I think in terms of qualities, listening, being accountable, being able to say, you know, I made this mistake. Don't deflect blame on your team in public, certainly not in public. If you ever have to have a one-on-one conversation about, you know, this didn't go so well, great, but don't ever trash talk your team. That's really a terrible mistake. Patient, trying to bring people together for common interests, common projects, and also outside of your leadership role, having your own personal support group. So I know Dr. Karen Morin is coming to the series. She and I have been that for each other for over 30 years. When things are tough at work, we can talk to each other very honestly. And maybe we complain about a person together between us, but privately, you know. But also we can help each other think about the problem we're having and get perspective on it. So you need your own little support group away from your workplace where it's very confidential and you can just really be honest. And they might say, you know, you screwed up. It's like, oh, Karen telling me I screwed up with love, that's important to hear. That's important to hear. So.
Thank you
Okay,
so much,
one-
Dr. Nancy,
Doc-
for
Doc
your
Miss Graham,
wonderful. Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
another question, Ma'am Grandma.
Being a successful leader with tremendous career experiences in life, what legacy you want to be remembered by your coworker, your staff, or maybe your student perhaps, or your colleagues? A legacy.
Yeah, that's tough. I want to be remembered as somebody who helped lift them up.
Yes, that's true. That's very powerful answer. Thank you so much, Dr. Nancy.
Dr. Grandma.
Dr. Nancy, I really like what you said a while ago when you said that don't think of your ego because it will also go with your relationships. It's like you are valuing the relationship more than the ego in that domain or in that circle of working with the people around you. So that is really very important. It will go back to the basic human level of respect, which is building positive relationships. So that was really a powerful statement. So we have another faculty member here, Ms. Shiba Shapi, will be asking questions also to Dr. Nancy. Dr. Shiba, please.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Dr. Nancy. It is really, Doctor, it is so nice to listen to you and your journey about your experiences. And it is really amazing. Each part of the talk which you told to us is a learning. Every step we have learned, each and every step we have learned a lot of things from you. So, I mean, it's great to be with you. There are so many things really we have learned and we want to know from you. Doc, I just have a question to you that while you have been serving on so many positions, you have been working on so many positions throughout your career, which was the one you enjoyed the most?
Time on the Significant International Board as treasurer was the most fun I've had in my professional life. And of the 4 presidents I worked with, Dr. Dan was the most fun president that I worked with, although I love them all. It was just so much fun to be on Dan's board because he is a very creative, big picture thinker. And I learned so much of him about that. So he's just such a nice person. So that was really a great deal of fun. So that's a peak experience, I think.
Dr. Shiba, another question, please.
Number 2 was being asked by my dean at Villanova to start the PhD program. I never imagined that she would say, okay, Nancy, go start a PhD program. But she did. That's exactly what she did. And she didn't, I said, I don't know anything about PhD programs. She said, yes, you do. And that's, off I went.
Dr. Shiba.
Actually, really, I mean, I have so many things, really amazing things, you know, I can ask. And one more thing, you know, that as a nurse, it is a very good profession always, and a very challenging profession as well. And because it's for the care for others, and I really love, to define it. So, what is your suggestion for the future nurses? We have many students here. So, what suggestions you can give to all of the future nurses, that how they can build their career and how they should be in their professional life?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say will open their eyes to opportunities in their professional journey. The biggest thing is advocacy for your patient. Advocacy for our patients starts at the bedside. I need supplies, I need the cleaning staff to do a better job, whatever I need for my patient. But then we start to look at the organization we're working in, and advocacy becomes a bigger issue of how do we look at policies in our institution that can be better for patients and their families. And then we start to look at policies in our country or in our level of government that are good for people and their families to be healthy, to get well, to stay well, to be cared for properly when they're not well. And so really what nurses need to do at every level is keep an eye on what at my level of work and at beyond me in my institution and in my government, what does it take to keep these people well or well cared for, and keep pushing wherever you are for that goal. That's going to open your eyes to, maybe I must go to graduate school. Maybe I want to teach the next generation. Maybe I want to be a charge nurse or a director of nursing. Maybe I want to run for parliament. Maybe I want to be in the Ministry of Health, because it's always about what can I do to advocate for the health of these people.
That was really excellent, Doctor. And thank you so much, Dr. Shiba, Ms. Rowena, and Ms. Grema. I know you have a lot of questions to ask, but we will try to ask all those questions in private. So, but of course, before we end our event, I would like to read some of the messages from our participants. So this is great, according to Mando Joseph. This is great. Thanks for the team. Ms. Merlin, thank you so much, KFU, to the organizers, and to Dr. Hopko for an excellent webinar. And also Ms. Sainab said, thank you so much for this valuable webinar. Thank you, Dr. Benjo. I have learned a lot from these last 4 webinars. Keep it up. Great session. Thank you, Dr. Sharts, for sharing your expertise. And also we have a comment here. As a student, I am very thankful for all the faculty efforts to share the valuable knowledge of the guests in these webinars. All information is very useful. We have comments here also. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. You are doing amazing work. All right, and we have a comment here. Thank you for this empowering webinar. Our speaker, Dr. Dr. Sharts Hopko, is indeed excellent in this field. Your professional and even personal sharing is very inspiring. Shukran. And another one here, you did and still do, Dr. Hopko. Thanks, Doctor, for all the insights that you have imparted to us. There's also a comment here. All of us should expect that we aren't perfect, but not staying on the same level. We should try to be near to that performance. And we have another comment here from one of your mentees in the past. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your emotional support. While you were my mentor, meant a lot for me. We'll always remember you. We have another comment here. The role of a creative leader is not to have all the ideas. It's to create a culture where everyone can have ideas and feel that they are valued. Another comment here from Badria. Thank you for your useful information, and all will help me to be a great leader. Thank you so much, Dr. Nancy. So we have a lot of comments here from our participants, and there's another one here from our faculty. Thanks for the inspirational presentation. So to end our event, we would like to express our gratitude to you, Dr. Nancy, but out of all the experiences that we have learned from you, I want to give this opportunity to all the participants to share my own story as well, and to be able to be graced by a powerful leader that even me, I never thought that I will be meeting, I mean, in my career journey. Because, and you know that very well that um, my experience to be having those conversations with you is really something that I did not even realize also that will happen. And honestly speaking, it really came at the right time. And there are so many things that I have learned from that experience because really for me to be able to have those fruitful conversations, I will have to summarize everything that I have learned from you personally, because since you are here and also the participants are here, and that would also give me the privilege to share also the knowledge, the experiences, and also the wisdom that I gained all throughout those conversations. So of course, I will be repeating about the importance of positive relationships, because that's one of the things that I will never forget from our conversations. Because for um, because doctor, it helped us or it will help us individuals or nurses to connect with the people around us, and also to have the humility to learn. Because when we build relationships from the people around us, especially mentors, for example, and having that humility to gain all those wisdom and experiences, it is such a pleasure, and it is such a wonderful experience, because growth always starts through acceptance also that there is something that we need to change. And also these relationships are a way for us to work together for a specific purpose, a healthy and a helping relationship, or the value of networking. Since you mentioned about networking a while ago, honestly speaking, I'm one of those people whom you mentored, who learned a lot about the importance of networking and relationships. And of course, the mentoring experiences that I had also helped me to help propel my aspirations, my vision, and also my dreams. And that allowed me to share my authentic stories with the people who love me, to the people that I serve, and also in any other way also to those people across my life, and that I was able to inspire directly and indirectly. So that also helps me to understand that I can influence or impact others to believe in themselves, especially with their abilities and strengths. Because doctor, it's very important in that mentorship experiences that I had with you, especially those powerful statements that you always tell me, and for you to be able to see that there is potential in me. And I will not be saying this in front of everybody, but those statements actually help me a lot. And those powerful words and statements really help me realize my potential, or my own potential, and what I can still achieve in my career. And a part of that also is, of course, the journey, which gave me the realization that caring involves making a significant difference or spreading kindness to the world around us, and the value of taking care of ourselves, which is always a part of our conversation, that we will not be able to give anything from an empty cup. So one of the things that I learned from you is that loving ourselves by sometimes setting boundaries, such as using our oxygen mask first in a crashing plane, should not make us feel guilty to be serving ourselves with balance, as we are also serving others in the process. So that is um, something that I have learned as well, and also the power of who we are, and of those who intentionally and graciously want to pave the way for us. Because, Doctor, in that experience of mentorship, it really made me more grateful of what I have. Because for me to have that thought that I was graced by a very strong leader and a professional with this very rich years of experience, expertise, and pouring all those experiences on me is something that I will forever be grateful. So that is really something that I will never ever forget in my career journey. And because of that, I will always have that grateful spirit and always appreciate what is current, what is coming, and what is my future. And because of that also, because of all these experiences, I learned to value the quotation from John Maxwell that leadership is the power of one or of someone like us to harness the power of the many around us. And I'm one of those people who were able to witness and experience that by being poured upon by the graciousness of the leaders who are mentoring me and those who are around me. And of course, moreover, and lastly, leadership amplifies that and something that we cultivate in our journey of building our meaningful legacy. As leaders, we need to appreciate its power, what it can do to continuously transform us, and the difference that it can make to the future nurses of tomorrow, and for them to do the same and pave the way to the future generation. So this is actually something that I value. And of course, Dr. Nancy, we have another one here. I just want to close this because we have a very long comment here from one of the participants. Thank you, Dr. Nancy, for sharing your milestones, not just in the academe, but in life as a whole. Your bottom to bench mantra have nurtured your steadfastness to hurdle all the challenges in career, in life, which is worth to be emulated by all of us. A life well balanced with family as the center will always lead you to prosperity. Thank you. And last one here, thank you to the team, to Dr. Benjamin. Thank you to Ms. Ruela for the invitation and guidance. Very timely event for inspiring all nurses, especially women. Happy International Women's Day. So, Dr. Nancy, we will be forever be grateful to this experience. Me, in behalf of the College of Applied Medical Sciences Department of Nursing at King Faisal University, we really appreciated your generosity to be even be gracing us with your wisdom, and also to the rest of my colleagues also who learned a lot from all those experiences. And we really look forward to be working with you again, probably in a different virtual event, in a different kind of experience. And I really hope that you're always safe, happy, and continue to be spreading your wisdom to all the nurses around the world.
Thank you, Benjo. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was just a joy to be with you all tonight.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Joanne, do you want to say something to remind our participants to formally close before we formally close our event?
Yes, Doctor. May I ask again the participants to please check the chat box for the webinar link for the evaluation. Please do not forget to complete the data or to fill out the data that it's needed for you to have the certificate. And also, there was a question a while ago, when is the next webinar? We have actually 2 events on March 22. One will be held at 10:15 a.m. KSA time. This will be about the laboratory safety measures to be conducted by Dr. Tamir Shahata. Then we also have again the 8th event from our global virtual series. This will be at 5 p.m. KSA time. So if you would like to join us again, please do scan the QR codes, or if you cannot access the QR codes, please go to our social media accounts so that you can click on the links for the registration. Thank you. Again, may I repeat, if you're already finished with your evaluation, you can already also leave the session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We will give a few minutes for the participants to accomplish the evaluation. Thank you.
Someone is asking to send the link again. Wait a minute. To repost the link.
Dr. Bothaina, can you please post it again? Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Of course, Doc, I will post again.
I think this one. For the participants, just in case that you may want to still ask questions, if Dr. Hopko is still willing to answer them.
Yeah, for a little while. I'm good for a little while.
Doctor, for me, I have learned a lot from you from this night. Actually, I have some keywords that I've learned from you.
Oh,
First is learning from mentors, that we learn from everyone we meet actually, because you've given us stories from you were younger. So even the people that we've met before, they will always have a lesson for us. We meet people for a purpose.
mhm.
Then another one, humility. I learned that humility, creativity as a leader, accountability as a leader also must know how to have a connection. Then also, as a leader, do not forget to have self-care. And lastly, gratitude. Always say thank you, no matter how small the task that was given to another member or another part of the team. You have to always show that you are grateful to what they have done. I think those are the keywords that I've gained from your lecture, from our session tonight, Doctor.
Wayne, you want to
Delighted.
have another question to Dr. Nancy? Dr. Nancy is here.
Actually,
That's
Dr.
a-
Nancy, I have something to say about your journey, your mentoring, your leadership. Actually, first and foremost, I have to thank you because you mentioned about legacy a while ago. Actually, you make a great impact to Dr. Benjamin as one of your mentee. Okay, because he was able to your legacy was able to resonate now from Dr. Benjamin to his students, to his faculty, which
Yes.
is actually we are what we call spreading your legacy, Dr. Nancy. And I think students, faculty are thankful because what we have right now, what we experience right now is Dr. Benjamin's relationship or positive relationship that he was able to connect to the people in Ayala and LN and Sigma, that
Yes.
he was able to share it with us, the student, inshallah, to the whole kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And that is one thing that we are thankful to you. Number two is, I'm always telling to Dr. Benjamin that we discussed about already the maintaining life balance, work-life balance. And this is the thing that I have learned from your story here. That when you mention about when we prioritize, we have to think first. We have a lot of opportunity, but we have to think what is the priority opportunity that you need to go and catch it. Because at the end of the day, you mentioned it, and I quoted I have learned about the balance is generally derived from being whole and complete. And it is essential in harmony. So, which means we have to make sure that we are complete and we are happy so that we can balance everything, our work, our family, our success. And in everything that we do, if we will go out away from that balance, it will lead us into unhappiness.
Yes.
So I catch your story there a while ago, Doc, about when the opportunity of having to become the dean, but you choose your family, your husband, it's actually goes harm for me, because that is also an experience of mine before, that I choose my family over
Mhm,
getting visa from other countries. But
mhm.
the 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 lesson that I have learned now is that my family is intact. My family is my priority, and I have a good career here. And I'm very, very thankful of that opportunity, that I prioritize my family rather than the success that I want in the earlier life.
Yeah.
So really, talking with you, your story about leadership, about success, it's really a choice. And how you choose your life, how you choose the opportunities that you have. And thank you really for your experience, and hoping for good health always, your happiness with your husband, and even your journey now being a mentor, continuously to become a mentor that give good impact to the society that you have right now. Thank you very much, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you, Dr. Rowena.
Actually, Dr. Nancy, when you told us your story, it stayed with us for 3 days, more than 3 days. And we are discussing about it, and we are crying.
Mhm.
Because the story that you shared to us actually applies to, especially for us who are away from our countries.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's like, yes, doctor. So it's like you are thinking on like you are away from your family, especially some of my colleagues, they are away from their children.
Mhm, mhm,
And when they got to hear your story, really it resonated with them.
mhm.
Yeah, and it stayed with us for a few days. That's why, and we are actually talking about it after we had our meeting, because really it's wisdom also. We really need to think thoroughly of that,
Yeah,
especially the importance of family.
very good. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. I think it's interesting, we teach our students people are holistic, but we don't necessarily believe ourselves we are holistic, right?
We have a feedback here, doctor, from one of our master students. I am inspired with she is inspired by your way of teach. Direct message. I thought it's a public message. One of our master students sent a message privately. She said that, Doctor, I am inspired by her way of teaching.
Yeah,
Yes, one of our students here.
thank you.
So any other question from my peers, from my colleagues at PFU? This is your opportunity to ask Dr. Nancy a question before we end formally event. I mean to end the event. Dr. Joanne, you may want to ask questions. Miss Grandma, our colleagues, there are a lot of our colleagues are still here. Any other question, inputs?
People are
Yes.
hungry. It's dinner time, I'm sure.
Actually, doctor, we are surprised also with the honestly speaking, doctor, it's one of the strongest events that we had, really. I mean, because there are a lot of lessons. It's very, very rich in lessons learned.
Thank you.
And honestly, doctor, because of the time and because we didn't even realize also because even our students are also um, having their exams. So
Oh,
that's the reason why, yes, also a lot of students were not able to join. But honestly speaking, it is one of the richest um, sharing that we had.
but
And I think this is
you
our
can share the
best.
recording with your students, yes?
Yes, we
Yeah,
we will. We can do that, doctor.
yeah,
We can
good.
do that.
Very good.
Okay, Dr. Shiba wants to say something. Dr. Shiba, yes. Dr. Shiba. Dr. Joanne, can you unmute Dr. Shiba? She wants to say something. I think to Dr. Nancy. Yes.
What?
Dr. Shiba, you're already unmuted.
Yes, yes, Doc. Uh, yes, Doc. First of all, really, I really want to thank Dr. Nancy for such a wonderful, explanation of her journey. And each and every step, I have learned a lot from her journey of her career, her life. So I just found that at every step, what I learned from her talk is that at every step in your life, either in your career or in your personal life, you learn something and you become better day by day. So you try to become a better person, a better version of yourself. So that is one thing I really I learned from her talk. And another thing is that when we talk about the leadership, so leadership, work at some point of time to have such kind of quality in them. But really, I mean, leadership is trying also. You can try new options, as she said, that you can try new options, you can try to learn from it, and maybe later on you can excel in that. So leadership quality, it comes slowly also. So that is also I learned that maybe I'm not perfect in something, but if I will try and I work for it, so maybe I can become a leader one day. So this is more good for everyone, for all of us. I mean, keep on learning. That is what I really understood and I learned from the Dr. Nancy. That keep
Absolutely.
trying, keep learning, and do your best. So
Mhm.
that is
Good.
one of the important
Yep.
Nancy,
and also
if you have a-
that
okay.
opportunities, like we get opportunities, lot of opportunities. Yes, Doc. Yeah,
Yes.
for the opportunities, opportunities come in our way, but we have to really choose what is our priority. Sometime if it is family also, it is important. So balancing between the family, the work is important. So
Yes.
this also I have learned, because sometimes we really neglect these things and we just
Right.
we keep on working and working and forget about that there is someone back home also who is waiting for you or
Yes.
wanted to talk to you. So sometimes it
Mhm.
happens
That's right.
also that you neglect your health also, and you don't pay attention for you also. So I learned that balance with work, your life, and your health, everything is important. So thank you so much, doctor,
Yes.
for your wonderful explanation of the profession, your career, and the
Very good. Thank you.
Dr. Shiba, I think you're a little bit choppy. Dr.